Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive into biochar?
Always ready to dig in.
This week, we're going through the highlights from biochar today, seeing what's grabbed the attention of, well, everyone in the biochar world.
Lots to cover, from research to investments, even some surprising applications. Should be fun.
Absolutely. Okay, let's kick things off with this study out of Finland, Aalto University. They were looking at, how the temperature you make biochar at pyrolysis affects its properties. The title is Effect of Pyrolysis Temperature on the Physical and Chemical Characteristics of Pine Wood Biochar.
Oh, yeah, I saw that one by H. Kumar and the team. Really detailed look at what's happening, not just, the end product, but like at a molecular level during pyrolysis.
Right, so like they're creating almost a recipe book
Yeah.
for how to cook up the perfect biochar for whatever you need it for.
Exactly. Like one of their findings was higher temps. You get a biochar that's way more carbon rich, probably great for filtering out pollutants, things like that.
Ah, makes sense. So almost like a biochar menu, different options depending on what you're aiming for.
Exactly, which is super important if we want to really unlock biochar's potential. I mean, think about all the possible uses.
Speaking of potential,
Mm.
did you see the news about Outokumpu, the steel giant?
Yeah, that investment in Germany, huge deal. Outokumpu invests in a biocarbon plant in Germany. The headline pretty much says it all.
40 million euros for a plant that's going to crank out, what was it, 15,000 tons of biocarbon a year, starting in 2026 too, so not far off.
Big statement, right? This isn't some little pilot project. It's a major player showing they're serious about, sustainability, walking the walk.
And they're not just like dipping their toes in,
Yeah.
they're going to use this biocarbon to make biocoke, key ingredient in steel production.
Replaces fossil fuels, big emissions cuts. Their goal is to get their direct emissions down by 50% just from using biocoke.
Ambitious. Makes you wonder what this will do to the whole biochar market. Like this kicks off a trend.
Could be huge. Other industries might start taking notice, realizing biochar isn't just, some niche thing. It's viable.
Okay, let's jump over to agriculture for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
There was this really interesting meta-analysis I wanted to get your take on. Let me see. Understanding the physicochemical structure of biochar, affected by feedstock, pyrolysis conditions, and post-pyrolysis modification methods. A meta-analysis.
Meta-analysis. Always love those. Big picture stuff. This one by Acon and their team. They basically took data from tons of studies, all looking at how different things affect biochar.
So not just temp this time, but also like what you make it from, any treatments you do after.
Right, the whole shebang. And they found some interesting stuff, like you can really boost key properties, the cation exchange capacity, surface area, crucial for soil.
Right, and they found like acidic treatments, high pyrolysis temps, that can really make a difference in those properties.
Huge jumps in effectiveness, like way better at holding on to nutrients or grabbing pollutants. Good stuff for anyone using biochar, really.
Whether you're a farmer or like a weekend gardener, right? This is gold.
Totally. So speaking of tailoring biochar for agriculture, there was another study, I can't recall the exact title, but it was about using biochar with those coated slow-release fertilizers.
Oh yeah, that was fascinating. Optimizing fabrication of coated fertilizers, integrated with biochar for enhanced slow-release properties, mechanisms, and cost-effectiveness analysis. Long title.
They weren't messing around. But yeah, slow-release fertilizers, they're a game changer. Nutrients last longer, less waste, better for the environment.
And biochar can really make them work even better. They tested a bunch of ways to combine them, and get this, the winner was putting the biochar inside the capsule, not just mixing it in or coating it on.
Clever. And it made a huge difference in how slowly those nutrients were released. Less leaching, more bang for your buck.
Exactly. And less runoff polluting stuff. Win,
Yeah.
win, win. Makes you think what else we could do with biochar and farming.
Oh, tons. This is just the beginning. Targeted nutrient delivery, all sorts of stuff.
Okay, ready for something a little different. This one caught my eye purely for the source material. Project seeks to turn cow muck into carbon capture fertilizer of the future.
Oh, yeah, the cow poo project. Love this one. Team in Wales, figuring out how to turn, what comes out the back end of a cow into biochar.
Brilliant, right? Waste problem. Solved. Plus, you get a valuable product, capture carbon. Might even be a new income source for farmers down the line.
Especially with carbon offsets being such a hot topic, companies like Microsoft paying big bucks for those credits. And this biochar could fit the bill perfectly.
Okay, one more before we take a break. This one hits closer to home. Rosy Soil raises $3.6 million to create gardening soil from captured CO2.
Rosy Soil, yeah, they're doing cool things, biochar-based potting mixes, and they
Yeah,
just got a big chunk of change to expand, $3.6 million.
they're already in Target, actually, plus hundreds of smaller plant shops. Pretty impressive reach.
And they're targeting peat replacement, which is huge. Peat extraction, terrible
Yeah.
for the environment.
So, good for the planet and good for your garden. Sounds like a win-win to me. Biochar mixes, they can really boost plant growth, improve the soil.
And capture carbon. So your garden is actually helping fight climate change in a small way.
Okay, last one for this part of the deep dive. Let's head north, up to Alberta, Canada, the Lesser Slave region.
They just got a pretty important rating for their bioenergy potential, a BBB rating from BDO Zone, which, if you don't know, it basically assesses how ready a region is for, bio-based manufacturing.
And BBB is solid. Good perspective capacity, low risk. That's what they said. First time an indigenous region's gotten this rating, too.
Really shows the leadership of First Indigenous Energy Services, Inc. They're behind a lot of this. And the region has tons of woody biomass, the infrastructure's there, strong partnerships.
Recipe for success, right? Could be a model for other communities looking to, I don't know, use what they've got to grow sustainably.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that the bioeconomy, it's growing. Opportunities are popping up everywhere. It's really amazing to see how biochar research is getting so much more advanced.
Oh, absolutely. Like that study we talked about from Aalto University, the one looking at temperature and pine wood biochar. Effect of pyrolysis temperature on the physical and chemical characteristics of pine wood biochar.
By H. Kumar and everyone, yep. It's not just, looking at the final product anymore. They use this thing called FTIR analysis to actually see the biochar at a molecular level.
FTIR. I'm not familiar with that one.
It's pretty cool. Basically, it identifies the types of chemical bonds, like it's giving you a fingerprint of the materials. So for biochar, you can see how it's going to interact with, whatever's around it.
So like, will it bind to certain pollutants
Mhm.
or like how well it'll hold on to nutrients in soil?
Exactly. And they found that those functional groups on the biochar surface, those change depending on the temperature.
So you could like tailor those groups for specific jobs just by controlling how hot you make the biochar.
Exactly. Biochar designed to, I don't know, suck up heavy metals from polluted soil or release fertilizer slowly over time. The possibilities are pretty wild.
And that reminds me of that meta-analysis we were talking about,
Mhm.
the one by Akon and their team, understanding the physicochemical structure of biochar affected by feedstock, pyrolysis conditions, and post-pyrolysis modification methods. A meta-analysis,
Right. That one was looking at all the different ways you can tweak biochar's properties.
not just temperature, but what you make it from, what you do to it afterward.
And one of the big takeaways, certain modifications, like those acidic treatments, they can massively increase the surface area.
Surface area, so more places for stuff to like cling to.
Think of it as making the biochar stickier
Right.
so it can hold on to more nutrients, grab onto those pollutants even tighter.
Really useful stuff for anyone working with biochar, no matter what they're doing.
Absolutely. And it all comes back to optimizing, tailoring it for the job, right? Which actually, makes me think about that project in Wales, the one with,
You mean turning cow manure into biochar?
yep, that's the one. Project seeks to turn cow muck into carbon capture fertilizer of the future. Pretty catchy title. But seriously, their process is really smart.
Instead of just like dealing with cow manure as waste,
Yeah.
you turn it into something useful.
They separate the solid and liquid parts, then heat the solids up, no oxygen, high temp, and bam, you've got biochar.
It's a closed loop, right? Circular economy stuff, no waste, and you get a fertilizer that's actually good for the environment.
And with all this talk about carbon offsets, farmers could potentially sell this biochar and, make some extra cash. Helps the planet, helps the bottom line.
Okay, but it's not all about, doing good for the planet. Sometimes doing good can be good business, like with Rosy Soil.
Oh, yeah, the potting mix company. Rosy Soil raises $3.6 million to create gardening soil from captured CO2. They're doing really well.
$3.6 million in funding. That's not chump change. And they're already a major stores, Target and whatnot.
The big part of their success is, they're focused on replacing peat, which is a huge deal because peat extraction is a nightmare for the environment.
So you're basically making your garden greener, literally, by using their product.
Yeah.
Plus all the benefits of biochar.
Better soil structure, water retention, nutrients for your plants, and it's capturing carbon. Your garden is actually helping a tiny bit with climate change.
Love that. Okay, let's circle back to that Alberta story, the BDO zone rating. Lesser Slave Region, Alberta issued BDO zone BBB rating for woody biomass.
They got a triple B, which is a really good sign. Means they've got what it takes to become a major bioenergy center.
Lots of planning went into that, It's not just that they have a lot of woody biomass, which they do. They built the infrastructure. They've got the right partnership.
They had a vision and they executed it. And now they're leading the way. Hopefully other communities will follow suit. See what's possible.
Yeah, it's a really inspiring example of how to use what you have to create something good, something sustainable. So we've covered a lot of ground this week. All those stories from Biochar today, it's been, I don't know, really eye-opening.
It is, isn't it? Biochar just keeps popping up in the most interesting places. Like, who knew cow poo could be so fascinating?
Right. But one thing that keeps striking me is how much emphasis there is on, like, tailoring biochar, making it fit the job.
Oh, for sure. Like that study from Aalto University, the one with pine wood and temperature, effect of pyrolysis temperature on the physical and chemical characteristics of pine wood biochar by H. Kumar et al. That was a perfect example. You can change the biochar's properties just by, adjusting the heat a bit.
And then that big meta-analysis, the one by Akon,
Hmm.
understanding the physicochemical structure of biochar affected by feedstock, pyrolysis conditions, and post-pyrolysis modification methods, a meta-analysis.
Yeah.
It showed how much you can change things by, well, everything. What
Yeah.
you make it from, how you treat it afterward.
Like having a biochar toolbox. Need it to grab heavy metals. Got a biochar for that. Need it to release fertilizers slowly. Got one for that too.
And the exciting part is this isn't just theory. We're seeing real-world examples now. That project in Wales, turning manure into biochar. Project seeks to turn cow muck into carbon capture fertilizer of the future. They're really doing it.
Closing the loop, right.
Yeah.
Waste into something useful. And it could actually be profitable for farmers, especially with all the interest in carbon offsets.
Speaking of profit, Rosy Soil, they're doing pretty well for themselves, aren't they? Rosy Soil raises $3.6 million to create gardening soil from captured CO2. That's a big vote of confidence.
3.6 million. Yeah, they're onto something. Replacing peat, that's a huge selling point. People want to be eco-friendly, especially gardeners, but they don't want to sacrifice, result.
And with Rosy Soil, you get both. Healthy plants, happy planet. And it's not just companies. Even entire communities are getting on board with this biochar thing.
Yeah.
Up in Canada, the Lesser Slave Region, they just got that BDO zone rating, remember? Lesser Slave Region, Alberta issued BDO zone BBB rating for woody biomass.
Triple B, yeah, that's like a gold star for their bioenergy potential. All that woody biomass they have. Plus, they've done the work, built the infrastructure, made the connections.
Shows what's possible when everyone's on the same page, working towards a shared goal. Really inspiring stuff.
It is. Biochar is, well, it's more than just, charcoal. It's a solution, but it's also like a symbol
Yeah.
of how we can do things differently.
Yeah, I get that. Like working with nature instead of against it. Finding those unexpected solutions in unexpected places.
Cow poo, who thought?
Well, on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive for this week. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Don't forget to check out Biochar today for all the latest, and we'll see you next time. Same time, same place for another Biochar adventure.